Welcome to this Bible study series, How to Study the Bible, Volume 3, Advanced Topics. This session is Why 4 Gospel Accounts? There was only one gospel during Jesus' ministry, not 4. It was the gospel of the kingdom. The gospel of grace came later through Paul, and that's the gospel that we know today. But there were 4 accounts of that good news during Jesus' ministry. These accounts are not really meant to be harmonized, because that does a disservice to their intents. A lot of people like to harmonize them, try to make a chronological study of Jesus's ministry, and I guess that's really okay, but that's not what God had in mind, the way he put them together. We will not study the gospel accounts here. Rather, we will address why there are 4. We will look at several models of the fourfold nature of Jesus. One interesting thing is to understand what 4 represents in the Bible. And for that, you can look at the Volume 2 part of How to Study the Bible. So, the 4 gospel accounts. Matthew presents Jesus as a king. In Matthew 1, verse 1, the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So, being the son of David, he's meant to reign as David's son forever. Mark presents Jesus as a servant. Mark 1, verse 1, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Now, that doesn't mention a servant there, but he's sent forth as a servant of God. And we'll see that in some of the passages that we get into in this session. Galatians 4, verse 1, now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. And that's certainly true of Christ. He was God's son. He had to go through things under the law in order to mature and show that he was worthy. He was the heir of all things, even though he was the Lord of all to begin with. All right, Luke presents Jesus as a man, and his genealogy is given back to Adam in Luke's account. An account of his birth is also given. Galatians 4, verse 4, but when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law. The series on biblical time will get into why Jesus came when he did, why it was the fullness of time. John presents Jesus as the Word or the Lord in the Old Testament. John 1, verse 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, a lot of people don't understand this is referring back to the Old Testament, and you don't find the Word in the Old Testament, but you do find the Lord over and over and over again, and the Lord was God, according to the Old Testament. John 1, verse 14, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of truth, or grace and truth. So the Lord of the Old Testament, who was an immortal man, became a mortal man in the New Testament, and he came as a baby and grew up as Jesus. Jesus isn't in the Old Testament. He's not Jesus until he's a Jew born of a woman. But what John will show you is Jesus is the Lord of the Old Testament, and of course, the Lord was God. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 4 to 7, the first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven. So you got a lot of verses that tell you that. Much of Christianity is a little bit blinded by the Trinity and doesn't understand what the Bible's teaching. Now, the 4 accounts have corresponding symbols. A lion represents a king, an ox or similar animal represents a servant, and a man is simply a man, and an eagle flies through heaven and represents God. Now, we shall see this symbology elsewhere in the Bible. It's not particularly present in the 4 accounts of Jesus' ministry. So let's start off with Ezekiel's visions. See where these symbols show up. Ezekiel 1, verses 4 to 6. Then I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it. And out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire, Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. Down in verse 10. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man, the face of a lion on the right side, and they 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and the 4 had the face of an eagle. So don't get too hung up on the ordering or anything like that, but the 4 symbols are shown here. And really, this is what Ezekiel saw. He's standing at Jerusalem. Actually, I think in this case, he's off in captivity, but in the vision, I think he's picturing what's happening to Jerusalem. And this whirlwind is coming from the north. So he's south of it. And so he sees the south side, which is the face of the man. On the left is the ox, on the right is the lion, and on the north side, I don't know how we could see it, is the face of the eagle. But the vision will communicate things that you might not normally understand. So this is why he sees them in this order, and it will differ from what we see in the next passage. Ezekiel 10, verse 14, and every one had 4 faces. The first face was the face of a cherub, the second was the face of a man, the third the face of a lion, and the fourth the face of an eagle. So we have cherub here rather than ox, but like an ox, a cherub is a servant. A cherub is an angel. It's a high-ranking angel that serves like a Levite would. And so that's why this term is used. The what Ezekiel saw between chapters 1 and 10 didn't change. It just has a different terminology as God has revealed it. So in this case, Ezekiel is viewing this is really the chariot of God carrying the glory of God. The glory of God is being carried away to the east. So he's seeing the west side as it travels away from him. So the orientation of it didn't change other than with respect to what Ezekiel is seeing. So instead of looking to the north, he's looking to the east, and he sees the same things, except it's a cherub now rather than an ox. So you have the 4 symbols show up in this vision. And you might say, well, how does this tie to the 4 gospel accounts? Well, this is, in a sense, linking the glory of God to the fourfold nature of Jesus. Now let's look at John's vision. This is in Revelation 4, verses 6 to 7. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf. And the third beast had the face of a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. So here we have the similar symbols. Instead of an ox or a cherub, you have a calf, and these are all demonstrating the same thing. It's a servant. So, as I said, the 4 beasts, lion, calf, man, eagle, these are in the order of the 4 gospel accounts: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Again, you don't know that it's linking this fourfold nature unless you go and study what the symbols are and that they're showing up in various places in the scripture. Now, the most complicated one, Israel's camp. Israel's camp provides the first model of the 4 roles of Jesus, but this model is veiled. I say it's the first model because it occurred first in the scripture. The details of the camp are in Numbers 2, and we won't be reading the whole passage. Additional information comes from tradition, unfortunately. So, Israel's camp, the east side. Numbers 2, verse 2, every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard with the ensign of their father's house. Far off about the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. So we'll be looking at the standard of one of the tribes on each side of the center, which has the tabernacle. So on the east, you have Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. I won't read the whole passages, but Numbers 2, verse 3, and on the east side, toward the rising of the sun, shall they of the standard of the camp of Judah pitch throughout their armies, and so on. Verse 5, and those that do pitch next unto him shall be the tribe of Issachar. Verse 7, then the tribe of Zebulun. So that's just laying out the 3 tribes that are on that side. We're really interested in the one closest, And that's the one that will have the standard that we're interested in. So that would be Judah. Then on the south side, you have Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. Numbers 2, verse 10, on the south side shall be the standard of the camp of Reuben according to their armies. Verse 12, and those which pitch by him shall be the tribe of Simeon. Verse 14, then the tribe of Gad and the captain and so forth. Now on the west, Numbers 2, verse 17, then the tabernacle of the congregation shall set forward with the camp of the Levites in the midst of the camp. As they encamp, so shall they set forward, every man in his place by their standards. So the Levites come in to set up camp in the middle. Then on the west, you have Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. Numbers 2, verse 18, on the west side shall be the standard of the camp of Ephraim according to their armies. Verse 20, and by him shall be the tribe of Manasseh. Verse 22, then the tribe of Benjamin. Then on the north, you have Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. Numbers 2, verse 25, the standard of the camp of Dan shall be on the north side by their armies. Verse 27, and those that encamp by him shall be the tribe of Asher. Verse 29, then the tribe of Naphtali. So again, we are most interested in the tribe that's closest to the center. Now, the camp may have formed a cross. We don't know this for sure, but this is something that Balaam sees. And you'd have to go to Numbers 24, verse 2. It doesn't tell us what he sees. It just says he looks down upon the camp. But if you trust the descriptions of the layout, you might conclude that it forms a cross. And I can't imagine he would have thought anything of it. But what were their standards for Judah, Reuben, Ephraim, and Dan? And they aren't explicitly defined. So I don't have north at the top here. So he's looking from the east, and that's going to have the longer leg, if you want to call it. There are more people on the east side than on the west side, and it's roughly the same on the north and the south. If you want to go do the math, have fun. But I've drawn this to scale. I've used the computer to do the math, so it should look something like this. So the primary tribes were on the east, Judah; on the south, Reuben; on the west, Ephraim; and the north, Dan. So let's see their standards, and it really comes by tradition because it doesn't tell you what they look like in the scripture. So Judah is presumed to be the lion, Genesis 49, verse 9. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, they are gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? So if you go on the internet and you look at the standards for the tribes, you may find one that shows you a lion, and it might be based upon this prophecy in Genesis. Again, there is no verse that says the standard of Judah bore a lion on it. Reuben would be a man, and it might be based on this, Genesis 49, verse 3, Reuben, thou art my firstborn, and that would be a man, of course. My might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. So you might think that's a bit of a stretch, but that's what people often use. Ephraim might be a bull, calf, or ox. Deuteronomy 33, verse 17. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth, and they are 10,000s of Ephraim, they are thousands of Manasseh. So again, you might find these, a little bit of a leap here, but that's what people use. And then Dan is really a serpent, but supposedly has been changed to an eagle. Genesis 49, verse 17, Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heel, so that his rider shall fall backward. Now, what some people presume is Dan flew to the north. He left his allocation of land and moved up north. And unfortunately, he brought idolatry into the land. And that's how the serpent entered into the nation, by bringing idolatry into it. And so some people presume the standard was changed to the eagle. But again, none of this is in scripture. How do you really know? But it tells a good story because it all lines up with the 4 symbols that we've seen elsewhere. All right, now we'll go to the 4 branches. Going to find 4 verses that talk about a branch. So the first one has to deal with the king. Jeremiah 23, verse 5. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise up unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. So you have branch mentioned here, and this branch will be a king. A servant, Zechariah 3, verse 8. Hear now, O Joshua the high priest, thou and thy fellows that sit before thee, for they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. So these are working out a lot better than the camp of Israel. Now a man, Zechariah 6, verse 12, and speak unto him, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, Behold, the man whose name is the branch, and he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. So those are all working out. Now the Lord, or God, Isaiah 4, verse 2, in that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellency and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. Now, that one's maybe slightly different, but the branch of the Lord will be the Son, or Jesus Christ. The Lord becomes the Son. Now you also have for behold declarations. First, the one about the king, Zechariah 9, verse 9. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt, the foal of an ass. So behold thy king. The servant, Isaiah 42, verse 1. Behold my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. Again, all of these are talking about Jesus, if you're not gathering that. Same thing with the branch references. For the man, this is the same one that we saw for the branch. Zechariah 6, verse 12. And speak unto him, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, Behold the man, whose name is the branch, and he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. So that has, behold the man, and he's the branch. All the other ones are different, but only that one is the same. The Lord, or God, Isaiah 40, verse 9. O Zion, that bringest good tidings, get thee up into the high mountain. O Jerusalem, that bringest good tidings, lift up thy voice with strength, lift it up, be not afraid. Say unto the cities of Judah, Behold your God. And of course, you can't see God, but you can see his image. His image in the Old Testament was the Lord. His image in the New Testament is Jesus Christ. So quite intriguing how explicit some of these are, and the one with the standards was a little harder to make out, but I think there's something there. It's veiled being in the Old Testament. These ones in the New Testament are getting closer to Christ's coming when you're in the prophets. Now, Zechariah's vision, this one's probably the toughest of all. This one's going to take a bit of faith. Zechariah 1, verses 18 to 21. Then lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, What be these? And he answered me, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. And the Lord showed me 4 carpenters. Then said I, What come these to do? And he spake, saying, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these are come to fray them, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. So you got 4 mentioned twice here. The first is about horns, and the other one is mentioning carpenters, and really nothing said, or not much is said about the carpenters. It says the horns relate to the Gentiles, and my comment will be the horns, or the Gentiles, have been sent by God, and maybe sent by the Lord, to scatter the people. So you could tie that to Jesus, but we'll focus more on the carpenters. So a carpenter is someone who builds something, and we'll see that Jesus is called a carpenter. Mark 6, verse 3, Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph and of Judah and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. Now, this says 4 carpenters, but I think what it's suggesting is Jesus is coming in his fourfold nature. He's going to rebuild the nation, the city, the temple. He's going to rebuild things after the people have been scattered and everything's been destroyed, he's going to come and rebuild. He's going to um, fray them, the Gentiles, the nations that have scattered Israel. So this one's a lot tougher, but when you've seen all the other examples, maybe you can receive this one as well. If you want to toss this one out, you still got all the others. So perhaps they are the fourfold nature of the one carpenter. So in conclusion, the fourfold nature of Jesus appears in several places. You've got the four gospel accounts or accounts of Jesus' ministry, Ezekiel's visions of the four cherubim faces, John's vision of the four beasts, the primary four standards in the camp of Israel, the four prophecies about branches, the four behold declarations, and Zechariah's vision of the four carpenters. So, pretty overwhelming evidence. God has four gospel accounts on purpose, not just four men wrote it. So, keep each role in mind as you study each account. You will find all aspects of Jesus in all the accounts, but Matthew focuses more on the king than the other three do. Hope you learned something there. Thank you.